I'm Jackie Dixon, and you're watching VLX TV, where my goal is to help you get healthy, holy, and hot so you can serve the world for God in a huge way. Today I want to tackle two questions I get asked a lot, which is why did I start my business, and what's the meaning of VLX? What does it stand for, and what's the story behind it? So I am going to talk about what VLX means to me, but I'm going to talk about one more thing too, which is what does VLX mean to you? So when I was growing up, I was surrounded by a lot of suffering. I had a couple close relatives who were extremely ill and battled with their illnesses for years. And I really saw the pain that brought them and those around them up close and personal. And as I watched this, as I grew older, it really hit me over and over and over how unfair it seemed that there was nothing that I could do except watch them and try to comfort them. But I also realized as I got older that a lot of the problems that they had weren't necessary, and they were due to a lack of information. I love that Bible verse, "My people are destroyed for lack of knowledge." Many of these illnesses were from lifetimes of poor body care, poor emotional care even, that had come to express itself through physical illnesses. And I decided I was going to figure out a way that I could help. The suffering had touched me too deeply, and this kind of became my life mission, that I was going to figure out how to ease the suffering. Now, I knew as a Christian that we were definitely going to have a certain amount of suffering down here on earth because nothing is perfect. The world is fallen, and we're all broken, and that's just the way it has to be. But so much of the suffering that I saw and that I still see is unnecessary. And so my goal became helping people to ease that unnecessary suffering by learning how they could live in ways that would help them to avoid it. So in the beginning, I was mostly focused on physical health, and I was convinced that if I could just get the latest medical discoveries to the lay people, to everyone in language that they could understand, to cut the medical jargon and kind of translate the discoveries and the research that often takes a long time to get out into the public knowledge, just to get it to people faster, then I could solve all problems. How naive I was. So I went off to Johns Hopkins because I was so passionate about healthcare and medicine. I didn't consider becoming a doctor. I knew I wanted to help people with their health, but that just did not seem the route for me. I felt called to spread information. So I went into medical writing, which you could think of as medical journalism. Essentially, it's writing about medical topics in layman's terms that everyone can understand. So I thought if I could just explain to people these complex research results that are being published in these medical journals that they probably don't want to read or might not even have access to, then I could really help to ease the suffering. But as I went through my own story and as I grew up and watched the world more, I realized that our health and our well-being as people is far from just about our physical bodies. There's our emotional health, our mental health, our relational health, our spiritual health, and even our sexual health. All of these pieces fit together to form people who are strong and well and at peace and are able to serve God in major ways because they're living in accordance with His design. So that's when I realized this is a much bigger picture than I've given it credit for. And I'm going to have to tackle all of these areas if I want to teach people how to have abundant life now to the extent that it's possible. So that's what I determined I was going to do. Halfway through college, I added on another degree in French literature, which I realized probably doesn't sound like it has much connection to this mission of teaching people how to live in full wellness. But it really does. I became passionate about France because I had learned through my studies in medical writing about the French paradox. This idea that the French could eat so much butter and cheese and bread and steaks and wine, things that we had thought were bad for our health, and yet they had lower rates of heart disease and other modern inflammation-based diseases than we had. How was that possible? It had puzzled doctors and scientists for years, and I was really interested by it. So I studied more about the French culture, and I learned so much more about a different way of acting as a woman, a different way of acting in relation to the world, a different way of taking care of yourself and perceiving each day as an occasion to be prepared for and be your best for. So now I was interested both in health and wellness and in this picture of a powerful woman who was extremely feminine and yet was not at all weak because she was feminine. That was the stereotypical ideal of the French woman. So I went over to France several times and tried to find both this incredible diet and this incredible woman. And sometimes I saw glimpses here and there, but by and large I found that it was more stereotype than reality. But I was not deterred. I determined that there must be a way to still live this way. If we could piece all these different elements together for different aspects of health and wellness, then maybe we could live as powerful women, and that was becoming more and more my focus and my fascination. What I was heartbroken, though, to discover in Western Europe when I was traveling over there is that they had largely thrown out God. It was a culture of beautiful churches that were mostly empty, except for the tourists who came to take pictures. I knew as a Christian, and I knew from my story, which I'll go into in a future video, that it was absolutely pivotal to be right with God, or none of the rest of this mattered. It's great to have a healthy body and a flourishing career and great relationships and have a strong sense of your womanhood and femininity, but if you aren't right with God, and I knew this firsthand, that sense of peace, of ease, of knowing that it's going to be okay even when everything is falling down around you, of knowing how you fit into this big story that the whole world is playing out, of knowing what your purpose is here, and being at peace when you see crazy things happening. If you didn't have that rightness and close relationship with God, nothing else mattered, and there was no true health or wellness possible. So what I came to realize was that people didn't really need to know the healthy diet techniques, which they do need to know, but not nearly as much as they needed to know the gospel, the heart of God, his desire to be close to him, and how they could draw closer to him. So that became the focus of everything I was teaching. How could we live in a way that would keep us tight and right with God in all of these areas that would allow us to have flourishing health and wellness? I graduated from Hopkins on this mission. And in fact, I took my business name partly from the Hopkins motto, which was one of the things that drew me to that school in the first place. Their motto comes from the Bible verse, John 8:31-32. When Christ says to his disciples, "If you abide in my word, then you will know the truth, and the truth will set you free." The Latin translation of that phrase, "the truth will set you free," is Veritas vos liberavit, which I've shortened to VLX, and yes, I turned the T on its side. I thought it sounded cooler, what can I say? So that has become my banner for life, to take these letters and the meaning behind them. The truth will set you free. If you abide in the word of God, then you will know the truth, and the truth will set you free. And figure out and live out myself and learn how to teach what that looks like in all these areas of our lives. So the things you'll find me talking about most here at VLX are our bodies, both how we care for them for true physical wellness and how we think about them, for having a healthy relationship with them where we think positively and we love them and we don't have insecurities about them. Our appearance and our looks and how our beauty should be cared for and how it fits into this world that's so broken and is looking for hope. How our relationships are supposed to play into this plan of health. What's our relationship with God supposed to look like and how can it flourish? What's our relationship with ourselves supposed to look like in this often I-centered culture? Where's that healthy balance of self-love and confidence but being totally other-centered and here to serve? What about our relationships with our family or with our friends? Or my favorite, because it's so much of my own story, with men. How, as women, are we supposed to be powerfully female and yet empower the men in our lives to be powerful men as well? How can we have deep, intimate relationships with the men who become our husbands and have that relationship flourish for a lifetime with passion and deep friendship and an even stronger ability to serve as two becoming one? So that's what I'm going to be talking about here. If you're interested in those topics, then definitely stick around. My goal is to give practical advice, some theological concepts and constructs for us to think about this through, and absolute biblical practical truth that we can live out in these areas to become more and more the women who God designed us to be. Now, before we wrap up for this week, I have one more question for you, and that's, what could VLX do or be for you? What areas of your life are you feeling stuck in or are you struggling in? Do you not take really great care of your body? Or do you not think about it very highly? Do you not really have a look that you love? Or maybe you just don't understand how it fits into the world and how you can use it to serve people in an incredible way. Maybe your relationships aren't going so well. Do you not feel very close to God or wonder if he even loves you or sees you? Or maybe your relationship with yourself isn't going so well and you struggle with the healthy balance of self-love and still being other-centered. Maybe your relationships with your friends and family aren't going so great and you're not sure, among all this modern advice, how much you're supposed to just write it off and say that's their problem and how much you're supposed to go all in and serve them and try to make it all work. Or maybe you're in the dating game and you are just miserable because nothing seems to be going right, or you can't seem to find the right guy, or you're waiting for the right guy and it's been years and years and years and you're kind of wondering if maybe you're going about this in the wrong way. Or maybe you're already married. Maybe you're getting ready to be married. And you want to know how to have a deep intimacy and friendship with your husband that will be passionate and last for a lifetime. Well, these are all the areas I'm going to be talking about. But I want you to tell me, maybe in the comments below if you're brave, or you can email me personally if you like, what area are you stuck in or struggling in? And what could knowing the truth about how to live fully and abundantly and biblically in that area do for you? The 3 letters VLX have changed my life and continue to. And I wonder if they could maybe change yours too. I hope you'll stick around and see where this incredible journey goes, and I hope that you will find the truth really can set you free. In the next video, I'll share my own personal story in these areas and why and how I'm so personally passionate about this. Beyond my relatives, how does this hit home for me? In the meantime, make sure you follow me on Facebook, Pinterest, Instagram, and Twitter so I can keep you inspired. And make sure you jump on my email list. I've got a really exciting online party coming up in a couple weeks called the Bombshell Soiree, which I'm going to use to introduce this concept of what a VLX woman looks like when she's fully actualized. She's a biblical bombshell. There's 12 pillars to being this powerful kind of woman of God, and I want you to know all about them and figure out how they can work into your life. So make sure you RSVP for that. The link is down below, or it'll be at the end of this video. Until I see you next week, stay healthy, holy, and hot, and go out there and shine. God bless you, beautiful.